Welcome to the Doomsday Clock. I'm your host, My Violent Heart. For many years now, my experiences and knowledge have led me to support and research eugenics. In fact, I was a supporter of it long before I even heard the term or knew what it meant. I'd interact with society or learn of some current event and say to myself, this isn't right and this should be changed. Most people hear the word eugenics and think it's scary, evil, and dark. But is it? The main goal of any eugenics program is to gradually improve the nation's health, beauty, intelligence, and physical fitness. I strongly believe that should be our goal. After many years of research, I've created my own eugenics program, and now I'd like to share it with you. So let's begin. I asked a game warden once if hunting was ethical. He told me that if we stopped hunting one species, that group would overpopulate, and then one of two things would happen. They either exhaust all of their food supply and slowly starve to death, or diseases break out and they die that way. He concluded by saying that keeping their population stable is ethical because it prevents their extinction. Years ago, I saw this news story about the zoo that went bankrupt and released all of its animals back to the wild. Unfortunately, most of them, their parents, and their grandparents were born and lived at the zoo for so long that they weren't suited for life in the wild. They had become accustomed to living in climate-controlled cages with plenty of food and no predators to threaten them. Their welfare zoo had created a tragic fate. The carnivores lost their ability to hunt for their own food. They were slow, fat, and too timid. They starved to death. The herbivores didn't know which plants were safe and which weren't. They also didn't know how to avoid predators. Many died from toxic poisoning, and the rest were quickly slaughtered by the upper food chain. None of them survived over 1 month. Each of these animals died because they couldn't survive on their own. They failed because they had lived in the zoo for far too long. This perfectly explains why Africa is being ravaged by famine and disease. For many decades, the U.S. has given billions of taxpayer dollars every year to Africa and other third world nations in the form of food, medicine, and technology. This enabled the third world to garner a huge population explosion. Meanwhile, the U.S. economy has hit a serious depression. Our national debt has surpassed $17 trillion. We're so broke that we can't even afford to maintain our infrastructure. Nationwide, thousands of schools are being closed, millions of teachers are being laid off, and thousands of public parks, roads, and buildings are in serious decay. This is causing havoc on our nation. We can't provide a quality education for our children, maintain our beautiful parks, have safe roads to drive over, or safe buildings for public use. We can't and we shouldn't continue living like this. It's our money. We should spend it on ourselves. Now I know you've seen those sad commercials about those poor, starving kids in Africa and feel incredibly sympathetic for them. That's how they guilt trip us into giving them money. But what would happen if we completely cut off this aid? Would they all just lay around waiting to die? Or would they get up and do what they need to do to survive? Obviously, when they get hungry enough, even the laziest will get up and take care of themselves. So there's no harm in cutting them off now. In fact, if we did, we could then use that money to invest in our own infrastructure. With those billions of dollars, we could fix roads, fund schools, hospitals, police departments, and fire departments, and hire more personnel for each service. This alone will create millions of new jobs at all levels. Each of these jobs pay a decent wage, and most would be able to support themselves and their family. New workers would then have money to spend. They'll pay off their debts, get a house or an apartment, buy a car, and buy food and other essential items. Many will also invest some of their money into savings accounts. Their spending will stimulate the national economy. The businesses they support will have extra demand and profits needed to expand and hire more employees. The banks they invest in will have the extra capital needed to provide more loans and lower their interest rates. This will further stimulate the national economy. It's a chain reaction leading to reduced debt, unemployment, poverty, and higher standards of living. This is just one of 4 ways to achieve such results. Number 2, pass tough regulations preventing American businesses from moving overseas. Imposing high tariffs on products from abroad would force American businesses to keep jobs in America. This would also encourage Americans to only buy products made by Americans. The jobs and the money will stay in America. This alone will create millions of jobs at all levels and further stimulate our economy. Number 3, we should ban all forms of immigration and deport all non-white immigrants. Whether they're here legally or illegally, all forms of such immigration raises our unemployment. They're stealing our jobs, crowding our schools, abusing our welfare, and sending an average of $65 billion back to their countries every year. There isn't a single job in this country that a white person can't do. By making this change, we'd ensure that only white Americans work here, and we'd be able to keep $65 billion a year at home. This alone would create millions of jobs at all levels and further stimulate our economy. Now I know what you're thinking. You want to turn America into an all-white country. That's racist. To that I reply, grow up. The non-whites will have their own countries where only their race can live and prosper. They'll get the exact same deal whites are getting. It's totally fair. But wait, there's more. Immigration doesn't just hurt the host country. It also hurts the country where those immigrants came from. Every year, America takes in tens of thousands of their best doctors, scientists, programmers, engineers, and members of other important fields. This robs those countries of tens of thousands of people with the skills, desire, and experience needed to improve and maintain those countries. By deporting all of them and banning them from ever returning, they'll return to their home countries where they'll be able to improve those countries. This will greatly improve the third world and reduce any need for foreign aid. Every race and every country will benefit from this. Number 4, we stop sharing our scientific, technologic, and medical secrets with non-white countries. The white American invented the majority of these marvels, so by hoarding our secrets, we protect our nation. Thanks to our brilliant white American scientists and engineers, science, technology, and medicine is consistently improving with incredible breakthroughs coming out every few years. This includes medicine, computers, communications equipment, military weapons and vehicles, and surveillance equipment. By sharing our secrets with the world, we allow our enemies to catch up to our level and become a threat to us. However, once we start hoarding our secrets, we'll quickly become more advanced and they'll become less of a threat. Now, each of these policies alone would create millions of jobs at all levels, greatly stimulate our economy. By enforcing all 4 of these policies, we would easily create tens of millions of jobs, drastically reducing unemployment. There would be so many jobs available at every level that everyone could find at least one good job. Once this is done, any and all forms of welfare will become completely unnecessary. With so many jobs available, only lazy shirkers would seek it. Therefore, we must ban all forms of welfare. All of it. As stated above, the tax money saved should be invested in our infrastructure, again creating even more jobs. We would have record low unemployment. All of this is completely possible, and we can begin right now. So why don't we? Do we really want to continue living as we are now, when the only jobs our government allows us to get are shit? Why the hell should hardworking white Americans allow immigrants to get all of the best jobs? Why the hell are hardworking white Americans exploited like this? It is not our fault that the third world is so fucked up. It is not the fault of working class whites that non-whites cannot make it on their own in their own damned countries. It is not our obligation to take care of them. This whole world is fucked up. The priorities are all wrong, forcing hard-working white people to become slaves of the lazy and incompetent. This must end. Everyone should be expected to take care of themselves and their families without help from others. Those who work hard, who earn every penny they make, have no obligation to support those who are too lazy, stupid, or incompetent to do the same. Responsible people are under no obligation to support the irresponsible. The first world should not assist the third world. Once we achieve these steps, the rest will fall into place. America will have record low unemployment and poverty will be virtually non-existent. Everyone, including the underclass, will have access to affordable loans, allowing them to attend college, buy a house, or start a business. The new jobs available and the access to student loans will help motivate children to do their very best in school to get the qualifications needed to pursue those jobs. The average family will have the income needed to afford healthy food, thus reducing obesity and improving our nation's health. This will go a long way towards improving our nation's health, intelligence, beauty, and physical fitness. So let's get back to eugenics. First off, we make murder, misogyny, rape, and child molestation capital crimes nationwide. Our society has long declared these to be some of the worst crimes imaginable. Many of these offenders can never be rehabilitated. They must be executed. Second, we execute all drug dealers, drug addicts, alcoholics, homosexuals, illegal immigrants, gang members, pimps, and prostitutes. Each of these have completely destroyed aspects of our society. They've dramatically fostered disease increases, as well as increasing rates of rape, murder, theft, and vandalism, which corrupts the moral fabric of our nation. It will also solve the problem of overcrowded prisons. Third, after freeing POWs, we execute every prisoner sentenced to over 10 years. Anyone committing a crime worthy of such a sentence should not be allowed to leave prison and do it all again. This will deter criminals away from a life of crime, and if it doesn't, then we really need to execute them. After these things are done, the rest will take care of itself. Men and women will naturally pair up based on their looks, intelligence, physical fitness, and health. No one will get a mate they don't deserve. The above average men will pair up with the above average women. The average men will pair up with the average women. The below average men will pair up with the below average women. Folks will have jobs with incomes based upon their abilities. The above average will become upper class. The average will become middle class. The below average will become underclass. Their income will determine how many children they can responsibly produce and care for. Without welfare, the underclass will no longer have more children than they can afford. Instead, they'll have maybe 2 children. Higher classes will be encouraged to create larger families as their income permits. This will drastically change the foundation of our society. Within a few short generations, the majority of children born will be average or above, while a small minority will be below average. With such an explosion of above-average people, our nation will have more breakthroughs in science, technology, and medicine. Furthermore, our society will be saturated with good role models, inspiring the masses to better themselves. Children will enter a far better world than we currently live in, with record low crime, poverty, debt, obesity, disease, unemployment, and taxes. They will have the highest fitness level, intelligence, pride, health, freedom, and safety. They will truly have the best quality of life that we could possibly give them. This is why I support eugenics. This concludes this episode. Thank you for listening to the Doomsday Clock. I'm your host, My Violent Heart.